Okay, so Winefred Aldrich, basic t-shirt block. Okay, page 186 and 187. Now, in the title, she says basic and easy fitting t-shirt, tracksuit and jersey block. Okay, so she's letting you know that this is a block for a starting point for many things. Okay. Now, there's a lot of information on this page. That's why I cut it, separated it, and enlarged it slightly for you, just so that you're looking at this. Okay? So see this page in the book? It has several blocks. It has our t-shirt block, it has the sleeve block that goes with it, and it has an adaptation to the block, where you make it into a raglan sleeve, which is a sleeve that has this seam coming here. So she has this a lot in her book, where she has a lot of information packed in. That's why it's such a small book. Okay, a lot of pattern drafting books are huge. So she packs in her information tight, and it's small, it's compact. If you're used to looking at it, it's no problem. But sometimes it overwhelms people when they're beginning. And that's why I gave you that handout where it's kind of separated, do you know? Also, her writing is tiny, very close together, so slightly enlarged. What I do, as you can see, I have a post-it, and I put my post-it under each step that I'm doing, and I move it down because I just get so confused and find it really hard to track back to where I was. So in her instructions, she will always have a lot of information that is important. When you're pattern drafting particularly, I really like the room to be quiet because there's a lot of information. It's like it requires a lot of concentration, so we don't have music in the room. I will really remind you to speak quietly if you're speaking. It's not that no one can talk or you can't talk to a friend for a minute, but like just that it requires a lot of concentration. So if you can respect the concentration levels of other people in the room by remaining, respectful with the noise levels. Okay, so at the start, I do read through everything she says. It's always important to read through everything with Winifred because she often has something very important that she's talking about at the top. Sometimes it isn't relevant to what you're doing, but sometimes it is. So at the top she says, instructions are given for 3 jersey block fittings from this block draft. So first of all, does anyone know what jersey is?
Stretchy fabric.
Excellent, it's stretchy fabric. So a lot of people have jersey probably on today. It's like a t-shirt fabric. You know t-shirt fabric? So like this. That's what it is, it's stretchy. So that's what she's talking about. It's a certain type. It's a knit fabric. So there's a difference between knit and woven fabrics. We're going to learn about that this year. But it's very important that you choose a block that goes with either knit or with woven. You know, as in, there's different blocks for woven fabric and there's different blocks for knit fabric because they do different things. So knit can stretch around the body and just go over shapes that go out and go in and all that. They just stretches for that. But woven fabric doesn't have any stretch in it, so it can't just go over a shape. So it can't just go over the bust, can't just stretch around the bust. It has to be shaped so that the bust can fit into it and then it goes back in. So that they're different. Okay, so that's the first thing to know. What she means there, we'll read what she says. She says, the basic body fit with no ease allowance for basic fitting t-shirt tops and dresses, main instructions. So see the way she doesn't say use the main instructions. She just, it's like, she erases all extra words that aren't necessary. What she's saying there is the main instructions, which is instructions that we're going to use, are for a basic body fit with no ease. So anybody know what ease might mean? Or what ease is?
Extra allowance, extra space.
Extra space, exactly, Angela. Yeah, extra space. So if you think about it, if you make something that fits exactly to the body, you wouldn't be able to move in it because it's so tight, so fitted, you wouldn't be able to move. So you have to put ease, an allowance of ease at certain parts of the body. Okay? Different blocks will have different amounts. Close fitting blocks that are for non-stretch, you know, they might only have a little ease at the waist and the hip. and the bust. So if I go like this isn't stretchy. So if I lift up, see the way, do you know, see if I go like that, see what happens across there, the strain. Do you know? If this is fit to me, so when I stand, it fits, I won't be able to move my arm. I won't be able to stretch. Also, if this was, say, fit to my waist, I know this isn't, but if this was fit exactly to my waist and I went to lift it up, I'm wider here than I am here, and when I go to stretch, then that space wouldn't, you know, everything would be ripping all the time. Okay, so you shape to the body shape, but each space needs ease, particularly the waist. So if you sit down, what happens? Your organs compact, your waist actually expands. Okay, so you need to leave some ease for that. Okay, and then walking, like the hip, you know, if it was completely tight, you wouldn't really be able to move or sit down because you spread out when you sit down. Okay, so that's what ease is all about. So in this case, she is saying there is no ease allowance. So it's going to be a kind of slim fitting t-shirt. Then number 2, the block with 2 centimeter ease allowance for easy fitting t-shirts, tops and dresses, first brackets. So that means she's giving the instructions in the first brackets for an easy fitting block. Then the third one says a block with 4 centimeters ease, so it's even looser, is for tracksuits and fleece jackets. That's the second bracket. Then she says the illustration shows 2, the easy fitting t-shirt block. So that means this illustration that's here is the easy fitting block. We're not doing that. So far as it's slightly different, it might be that because of that, because her diagram is of the other one. Okay, it's a lot of information already. So then the next section here, measurements required to draft the block. Every block has this section on it. And we'll read right through it. The block can be drafted in size to size codes 10, 12, 8, 10, 12, etc. So what she means by that is you can go in to the size chart, which I told you, and plug in the numbers for a size 20 and come out with a t-shirt for that size. She says, or extra small, small, medium, and large. So if you go back to the size chart, there is not only the 8, 10, 12 sizes, there is also small, medium, large sizing. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways to size it. So if you get small, medium, large sizing, there's less sizes, do you know? And so there's less, or there's more, greater differences between the sizes, less specific. So if you're a designer, sometimes maybe with a kind of oversized flowy garment, you don't want to make a size 8 and a size 10 and a size 12 and a size, you know what I mean? You make a small and a medium, you know? So you would be deciding that as a designer. Are you going to size every size? Or are you going to do small, medium, large? A lot of cheaper shops just do small, medium, large. If you go to Penny's, you're going to get small, medium, large a lot of the time, you know? And then they do extra small and XX small, and you know. So that's what it's saying there. Then the next line is personal measurements, and she gives you the page number, can also be applied to the block. That's what I was talking about. You take your personal size, plug it in, you can get, from this, you can get a basic block, an easy fitting, or an extra easy fitting. Okay, then she tells you a size medium from the size chart on page 10 is used for the illustrated example. So that means that, see underneath that, all the sizes that are there. So they give us a list of all the areas that we need a size for, a measurement for, should I say. And the measurements are filled in. So the filled in measurements are for a medium. That's what she's telling us there. Each block she fills in something. It tends to be medium, it tends to be size 12 on the women's. Okay. If you were doing a different size, it just means you have to keep going back to your size chart. All right. So then we can see our list of measurements. They're all the ones that we need, or maybe, yeah, more than we need, I'm not sure. But anyway, they're all listed there. Okay, then she comes down and says body sections in bold, and we start with our first instruction. So our very first instruction is square down and across from 0. This is why we needed to know what squaring was from this morning. Okay, so yay, we're here now, we can start. When you're starting the block, it's important that you look at, this is how you use the Winifred. When she says a point, 0, you look at the diagram and find 0. Okay, then choose appropriately where to put that on your page. So if 0 is at the top left of the diagram, be sure and put 0 on your page at the top left, because then the diagram's going to go down and over like this. Okay, so if you put 0 here, you're going to run off your page. Okay, so just have it 0 be at the top left. Now, before we go on, I explained something about this paper we're using. This is what's called spot and cross paper. The spots and crosses are perpendicular to each other, or at right angles to each other, or at 90-degree angles from each other. So it helps us with our squaring. It helps us create our perpendicular lines. If I draw a line down along the center of these spots and crosses, I can choose the center of any other ones going this way, the horizontal ones, and it will be squared. It will be perpendicular. It will be at a right angle. It will be 90 degrees from that line. Okay? So it helps us. The plain paper you used this morning, we can also use. I use this for the blocks, and then I use plain paper, generally speaking, for the rest of the year. You can see what you want to use, but if you don't use the spot and cross paper correctly, you lose marks. So that's why I will encourage people sometimes away from it, because people start using it wrong. You have to have your straight of brain on spots and crosses when you're using this paper. You'll learn more about that as we go. So I recommend spot and cross paper. So I'm going to start up here. Now, don't use the edge of the paper, okay? Because if you're incorrect and I need to write something or move it over, there's no space to move it. So just leave a little bit on the top, you know, a few centimeters, a little bit on the bottom. So I'm going to say choose this position here to start. I'm going to put my pencil in the middle of the spot and cross. I'm going to bring my set square up to it. And then I'm going to come down. And she doesn't give us a measurement or anything, so we're just drawing a line. So just draw a nice long line, we'll measure on it afterwards, and then choose a line to intersect going across that way, horizontally. And again, there's no measurement, so just draw it out for a while. Okay, again, using your pencil on the middle of the okay, try and leave an intersection here, so extend those lines. What I'm going to do is I'm going to diagram the rest of this in pen, just so people can see, because it's impossible to see what I'm doing there. So I'm going to use a big marker, which means it's less kind of precisely accurate, but you can see it a bit better, okay? I think we're only coming out something like 22 at max, so you know we don't have to go that far. Okay. Winifred has these big dots on her positions, but I don't like to see a big dot on a position because I need to correct your measurements and I need to see the nice intersection in pencil, which is really very precise. And if you put a big black dot, I can't see where you intersected it, and the dot could be a measurement of 3 millimeters wide, so it's kind of to help just bring your attention to that point, but in our diagrams we're going to just have intersections. Okay, now there's a lot of numbers in drafting, so there is positions, like position 0, and then there is measurements, like numbers that are measured. So I'm going to circle the position number. So when I do a 0, I'm going to do it like that, and I'm going to circle it. See, that looks like it's a bit of filled in 0, but okay, I'm going to try and remember to write my measurement numbers in red, just so they stand out as different.
You need to do that?
You can do that as well, yeah. I think it's good to write in the positions if you can, because when I correct them, I will say 0 to 5 is out, 0.5 up or 0.5 down, or add 3 cents, you know, and if you don't know where 0 to 5 is, you know, you have to open the book and go back, you know, so it's not the end of the world if if you're getting lost and you can't keep up with getting all the positions labeled, that's okay. So yeah, so square down and square across from 0. So that's the language that Winifred uses. So I'm taking my post-it up and putting it under the next instruction so I can isolate that instruction because she gives a lot of information. The next one says 0 to 1. What you want to do before you go any further is just look where 0 to 1 is on this diagram. So you have a visual. So you're giving yourself a head start knowing where exactly you're going. So 0 to 1, where is 1? It's there, it's down here. This is going to be the waistline. So we know now, okay, we're coming here. Okay, then the next bit of information she gives is about the measurement. So the first thing is the positioning, and the next bit is the measurement. And remember, it's like she gives you a formula for the measurement. Once in a while, she just gives you a measurement, like 2 centimeters. But most of the time, it's a formula to find the measurement, and you have to go hunting a few steps to get it. So in this case, it's the neck to waist, and then she just has that semicolon, or whatever it is, and then square across. So that's 2 sets of instructions. So neck to waist is meaning you go up above, you find the measurement that says neck to waist, but unfortunately Winifred calls it nape to waist there at the top just to confuse everyone. It's the nape of the neck, if you heard of that term before. Yeah. So the top of the neck there, this position to the waist. So she gives us a measurement there, 41 centimeters. So 0 to 1 is our neck to waist, which is 41. So 0 down 41 is position 1. Then her next set of instructions is square across. See how that works? Yeah, okay. By the way, we are doing this diagram as a full scale diagram because we will go into half scales but in the future, but this is exactly a full scale. So if she says 41, then we're doing 41 full scale measurement. So if your set square isn't long enough, you know, you might need to do like whatever it is, 30, and then add your 11, whatever way it is. Make it easy for yourself, you know what I mean? Don't try and go like 24 and then what's 24 plus whatever to 41? You'll make a mistake. Just make it as easy as possible when you're doing your measurements. And even if that means 20 and then do 20 again and then do 1, whatever it is. Okay? Mine is big enough to do 41. Isabel's asking a good question. I've marked my position 1. Yeah? So I now have, see where this comes, it doesn't fall on a spot or cross. Okay, if it fell right on one of those, I could go along and I don't know, or I know, I'd be confident that that line is perpendicular, it's squared. And this one's in between. So I have that choice, like squaring, putting your set square along one side and then coming along. As I said, it can be out a bit. I mentioned already that you could come down, so you could choose to measure down there, 41 and 41 a couple times and come out. Or you can practice your squaring, you know, and put your set square along there, whether it's this way or this way, it doesn't matter. You just need a long length to place it along and then square out. The thing that's very handy about this is if my squaring was off, it would start veering closer to, you know, you'd see it. Here's the spots and crosses, and maybe it would be starting to go closer and closer to these bottom X's, do you know? So the paper gives you a visual to help you see if you're going off. So the next one is 0 to 2. So before we read anything she says, we look at the diagram. Where is 2? 2 is there at the bottom. Now this one is strange because she says finished length and then she says square across, but if you go up, I don't think she gives you a finished length, does she?
It's only in that line in the diagram.
Yeah, exactly. So in the diagram I've handed you out, I have decided the finished length for this.
22.
So it's, and I've done it slightly different to her actually, because basically that's your waistline. And for blocks, I would always recommend that blocks finish at a point on the body that is obvious. So a hip line, an elbow line, a knee line, a waistline, they should always end at somewhere, not just like, I mean, she's saying finish length, like, it does work for a designer if you're designing a t-shirt and you know you've discovered the length you like it to hit right there, 23 down, that's perfect, that's for me, that's what my block is going to be. But if it's a basic block, it should be just representing the body, and it's the easiest to have it finish at a position on the body that everybody will know, okay, that's hip length, and then if I'm adding length to it, it's going down below the hip. If it's coming up, it's going above the hip. So the hip, the waist to hip measurement in Winifred for size 12 is 20.6. So we're going to come from the waist down 20.6. So it's a slight change on that instruction from the book. Remember earlier I was saying 20, I explained about the millimeters. So 20.6, not 26. So 20 centimeters and then 6 little millimeters. So it's just a little over 20. And again, you practice your squaring across, lining up your set square, holding it really tight, so kind of white knuckle it, as in press hard down on the set square once it's lined up, and then come across there. Okay, then take a look. Oh, mine was right on the bottom of those spots and crosses, so that was handy. And that is position 2. I'm going to circle that, and then I'm going to write my measurement in red. You don't necessarily need to write the measurements in at all. This is just for the instruction diagram. The next thing is 0 to 3. So we're going to look at and find it 0 to 3. We're still going down along here, but it's halfway between 0 and 1, or it's not maybe, but it's somewhere in the middle there. So okay, and so then we have our measurement formula, which is arm side depth is basic measurement, and then she has a bunch of brackets. Remember, we're ignoring the things in brackets. At the top she said the block with the 2 centimeter ease would be in our first brackets, and with the 4 centimeters ease would be in the second brackets. So we know that we are, in this case, on this block, ignoring the brackets. Okay, but you have to, with each block, be careful, because sometimes they're not ignoring the brackets. It just depends. Okay, so arm side depth is the basic measurement. We ignore the bracket things for the moment, and then it says square across. So
21, is it?
exactly, so you go up and you find the arm side depth. So the arm side is a term for essentially the armhole. Okay, so if I say armhole, you're probably more likely to understand what that is. It's this here, this shape here that the sleeve goes into. The arm side is the other term that Winifred uses. So armhole, arm side. So the arm side depth is given at 21 centimeters. If anybody wants to do their own personal blocks or a block for a friend or anything, please take the arm side depth from Winifred's book as standard. That is one of the most commonly mistaken measurements, and it screws up the whole arm, the shoulder, and it's a nightmare. So I would, if I was doing someone's personal measurements and they were generally speaking close to a size 18, I would go and look at her arm side depth measurement and most likely use that. Maybe you have to assess each body, but it's a good starting point. So we're coming 21 down, yeah? Then we're squaring across. So it's, so far we've just done the same thing every time. next one is 0 to 4, which is here. So we're still on this line, and we're coming in between the 0 and the 3 somewhere, and that's where position 4 will be, and our equation for that then is half the measurement of 0 to 3 and then square across. So 2 sets of instructions. So we just have to half the measurement 0 to 3. So this was our 21, so half of 21 is 10.5. Excellent. So that's 10 centimeters, 5 little millimeters. Okay, so you've gotten lots of chances there to square, or some people are measuring down. You could definitely measure down in some of these cases. As you start measuring for longer distances, it starts to get a little bit less accurate, so it's kind of starts to become much of a muchness, I suppose. But the next one is 0 to 5. We find 5 on the, we're still on the same line. 0 to 5 is here, it's above 4. And our instruction is 1/4 the measurement, 0 to 4, and square across. So in terms of quartering things, or halving, or finding 1/3, that's commonplace. All you have to do is, if it's a quarter, is divide by 4. If it's a third, you divide by 3. If it's a half, you divide by 2. So you can use your phone calculator, just put in the measurement and then press divide by 4 in this case, isn't it? To get a quarter. Now I've worked out the measurements already for you on the page, so that is also helpful. So I have written 2.6 on there. Would that be correct? So sometimes if something's 2.59 or 2.58 or whatever, we just round it up to 2.6. I don't have my calculator on hand, so I'm not sure. But okay, so 2 centimeters and 6 millimeters. The next one is 0 to 6. So now 0, we look for 6, and 6 is over here, it's across. So it's our first one that isn't down along that line. So we're coming out horizontally from 0 for this one. Okay, so now we know where we're going and what our measurement is. The formula for it is 1/5 the next size. We're ignoring the brackets, and then it says square up. Okay, so in this case, we're not squaring out, we're squaring up. So we're going to find 1/5 of the next size. So to find 1/5, you find the next size, which should be listed above as 37, isn't it? There it is, yeah, 37. So you would put in the calculator 37 divided by 5. That gives you 1/5. 7.4? Yeah. Okay, perfect. That's what I got. Okay, if you don't like doing all those calculations, it's why I've given you this, which is what I call the cheat sheet. Okay, it has all the answers on it. So this is position 6. So squaring up again, putting the side of your set square along that line. It doesn't tell you how much, but you can see from the diagram we're not going very far up, so you can extend a bit. And that's again why the diagram helps. It gives you an idea, maybe, that we don't need to be going miles up there. It's going to be a small measurement. 6 to 7 then is coming from position 6, the point we just got, and going up towards 7. And in this case, so we see where it is on the diagram, she gives you just a measurement, 1. So obviously no matter what size block it is, or what personal measurement you put it in, it's always 1 there. So, and then she says draw in the neck curve. So first of all, we'll measure 1 up. mark that as 7. And then we have to draw in our neck curve. So you see in the diagram the kind of shape she's made there. You try and do your best to imitate that. The important thing is that it's squared along here. This point here is this position on the body here. It's the back neck point. It's actually straight. Okay, and then it just starts to curve. Now it's squared just for a little while and then it starts to curve. Okay, and then so the shape we're trying to make is that neck shape. Again, different designers might do slightly different shapes on their necks. I mean, there's a neck is a roundish shape. So most of the blocks will be pretty similar. That's all right. No problem. So what you don't want to do is do too much of an angled line so that it's like pointy, because that would make it like a point there at that shoulder. Okay, and you don't want to do what I call a sausage shape, which is like long and then curves up really all of a sudden, do you know? So you don't want to do this kind of shape too much, and you don't want to do this shape, you know, straight line. You want to do something in between this and this, you know, so you are coming straight and then you're curving it ever so slightly up into a shape there. It's a very slight curve. Okay, so people are doing good. Some people are working away ahead. That's fine. So 3 to 8, which is here now on the diagram 3, and it's going horizontal this time, along line 3, going out. So often the positions are good to label because, like I said, I refer to them. It's very hard to talk about the lines, isn't it? There's a whole bunch of lines on here and you're like, you know, this line, that line. So if there is a position like 3, then I can say line 3, horizontal line coming from 3, or line 1, or line 4. You know, and that's how we talk about things often, is by numbering them. So 3 to 8, which is coming across there, is half the back width. Oh, sorry, half back width is basic measurement, she says. And then she puts things in brackets, we ignore those. And then she says square up to 9 and 10. So 8 there, and then we're going to square up to 9. 9 is just the position where it runs through 4. And then 10 is the position that hits from line 5. So I have worked out that, oh no, the back width is given to us, isn't it? Back width.
It's
34.4, and then we divide that by 2 to find half.
17.2.
17.2 is it? And that's where we are, what we are measuring. So 17.2 coming out from line 3. And we're carefully squaring up. This is a point where we have squared across here, then we have squared up. So there's 2 amounts of squaring. So, you know, really double check. Okay, or it could be a point that you decide, I'm going to measure out 17.2 from this line and use that as my way of getting that line. So this is position 9, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
8, 9, 8, 9, and 10. So we've kind of got this bit here. This is the sort of block, and that's representing this part here so far. And our next instruction is 10 to 11. So 10 to 11 here on the diagram, there's 2 dots very close together. Remember, we're not drawing in these dots, but they're 2 positions. So 10 to 11. And then she just gives a measurement, 0.5. So it's just a little bit. So a half a centimeter, 0.5. And then she says join 7 to 11. So first we're coming out, and then we're joining it. In the diagram, to me, it looks like she's joined the line to 10. So I think that diagram is slightly off. It looks like that to me. But anyway, so we're going to do it correctly, which is coming out 0.5 That's position 11, and then we're joining those 2 points. So very like the practices that we were doing this morning, when you've got a point and drawing your lines between them. Do try and do those little intersections. So I'm coming from 7, and I'm coming to that point there, 11. I would be putting my pencil, or my, in this case I know it's a big marker, but I'm putting that there, then I'm moving my set square up to that, putting my pencil there, and seeing that it's all good before I draw my line through it, okay? That's the way to help your accuracy.
Line 12.
So 3 to 12, 12 is here, okay? And so it's horizontal. So we're coming out on line 3, and we're going to find 12, which is going to be past 8, so it's just here, a little bit past. And to find what that measurement is, we would quarter the bust. Quarter of the bust is the basic measurement. That's the one we're going with. And then it says square down to 13, so coming down to 13. So we're going to find that, we're going to square down. I wouldn't square down, I would measure, because it's a long rectangle shape we're making. So we're going to come out, the measurement for that is 22. So that's 12. So if position 12 is 22 over, I'm going to measure 22, and then I'm going to measure 22 again, and draw my line. So that line is what's called the side seam. So our side seam is here, this part. Okay, that's our side seam. All right, we have that on most garments, not all garments. A lot of t-shirts won't have a side seam. So our last instruction there before it goes on to the sleeve block is draw in the arm side curve. So arm side again is the armhole. So the arm side curve from 11 through 9 to 12. So from 11 through 0.9, meaning it has to hit 0.9 and then into 12. So I have given you a guideline, I think, is what I've done, have I? Yeah, there's a measurement, 2.5. So just in answering to yours, Ben, I think I've probably drawn that and then I've put on the measurement there, 2.5 out. So it helps you sometimes when you're going to, this bit here, so here is simple enough. You're coming from 11 to 9, you're only just going to be, it's going to be a flat curve that's hard to do, but do your best. But from here to here, it's kind of no man's land, like how am I curving it? So I've given a kind of a measurement, an estimate coming out to help you.
For
So
the
if you
midway between in the triangle, in the angle.
Yeah, so like if you measure out from that point at an angle 2.5, so you know, that will kind of help you veer your curve correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to draw that in.
Do you think, is that like a standard
It is, yeah. Most of the curves,
measurement?
yeah, most of the curves are 2 to 2.5, something in that. So with t-shirts, this is the same on the front and the back, but a close-fitting garment or a garment that is non-stretch. If you look at, see the way my arm is, it's not exactly centered, is it? It's like my neck. My neck isn't centered. The neck is forward. The arm is also forward. The back shape is different to the front. Now, in a t-shirt, they can just kind of get away with it. But when you're doing close-fitting or tailoring, you have a different shape here. Okay, you come up 2.5 and you come up only 2 in the front because they're different, the shapes. So we're nearly finished. Our last one is, I think, has a mistake on it. So on the book, there's a mistake, there's an error. So, but I have fixed it on your chart there. So it should say 0 to 14. I don't actually know what it said before. It might have said 1 to 14. There are mistakes in Winifred's book, unfortunately. I do pick them out and show you where they are, but that is a nightmare for beginners if you bought the book and you didn't know. Okay, so 1/5 the neck size minus 0.5, that's our formula. 14 is down here. It's going to be the neck point here, the front neck point. And she says, draw in front neck curve. Back and front are the same except for the neck curve. So just on this one block. So that's why we start with it. It's nice and simple for you guys. Okay? So this is our last instruction. The measurement was 5.9.
Yeah. I have it there.
Yep, so 5.9 down, and probably the trickiest thing is to make that curve then. So just under 6 there. So the curve is coming from 7 and coming into 14. Again, I would square just for the tiniest bit, even if it's just for 0.5 or something, because that position is there. If you don't square, it's going to look pointy. Okay, you're going to get a little V there. You also don't want anything pointy at this shoulder point, so you want to kind of, there's already a line there coming down. So you kind of square down for about 3 or 4 millimeters and square out, and then do a nice curve coming down. Okay, so just do attempt the curve looking at the diagram or looking what I've done. Remember, there's a neck going in there, so sometimes what you want to be wary of is just a line drawn from there to there. That would come right up on the neck, because the neck needs the space. It's a round shape, so you're trying to imagine that a round neck is going in there, you know, and then you're drawing that shape around it. A couple of things there. We have completed the body section. Notice that she has written on it front and back, and she has along the line written center front and center back. So it's always important on every single draft you do, for the rest of the time you're with me, that you write your center front line, that you always label it, and you always label your center back line. So be sure and write it right in. In this case, they're the same. Please write it along the line, not like over from it, or like this way. Center front and back line. You can label that there's a front and a back on that, which is more unusual. Also, please write your name on this diagram. Everyone has done the same diagram. Please write it in the middle of the block, because if you write it up here or here, I can't find it, and I often cut off extra paper when I'm correcting them, and I cut your name off. So just write it right in the middle there somewhere. Okay? You also need to label what this diagram is. So this is your basic t-shirt, you can call it. And you always write the size on your block. So underneath that you write, this is a medium, isn't it? Because it's not a 12. You can write, sorry, I have very sloppy handwriting. Please don't copy my sloppy handwriting. Please write neatly.